The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. Viewers, listeners, every second that you get of tonight's show is a blessing, and we should treasure it because, frankly, I don't know how many seconds of this show we actually have this week. Every second that we remain on the air this week, viewers and listeners, is nothing short of a miracle. And here's why. Producer Lauren, the incredible human being who happens to be my sister, who is responsible for keeping this show on the rails, for keeping us in your phone devices or on your computers, wherever you're checking out this program, is producing the show remotely from Utah because she travels a lot for work, but she always makes sure that she's here to produce Break the Business, and we're so grateful for that. But hers is the internet that keeps the stream up. So wherever we are, Lauren's internet is what is allowing all of us to hear from you. And Lauren is not hardwired into the internet this week. In fact, from what Lauren tells me, she's not even connected to her computer because the computer in her hotel room is really bad. What I mean to say, viewers and listeners, is that this entire Break the Business stream, everything that is brought to you on satellite radio or podcast platforms or volume.com or wherever you're checking this out, is being held together on the flimsy, ephemeral internet connection of a single hotspot cell phone in the middle of the mountains of Utah. And I don't know how you are all hearing my voice and seeing me so clearly. It is a miracle. Producer Lauren, can you just chat with us for a quick second, or is putting you on the air going to cause this whole thing to collapse?
I'm pretty sure it's the same bandwidth, whether I'm on or hanging out backstage seeing you. So why not?
I mean,
Ooh,
am
my
I
lighting's having fun too.
did I? Where are you? Am I characterizing this correctly? Our whole connection is being brought to us on a cell phone internet in the middle of the mountains.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, it's funny because my picture's the mountains too, but I'm like connected into the little tethering, and the tethering here in Utah is all we have. We are not on hotel Wi-Fi or my hotspot bubble or the hardwire. We're literally tethered to my cell phone connection. So shout out to Verizon in Utah. Like, they got some good connection here. I have like almost 60 up and like 30 some, or excuse me, almost 30 something up and 60 something down, tethered to my cell phone.
There are times I don't get that with like my wired internet here in Weston. So kudos to Verizon Rocky Mountain Internet. This episode of Break the Business is brought to you by Rocky Mountain Cell Phone Internet. All right. Thank you for all that you do, producer Lauren. Yeah, right. Let's go ahead. Thank you. Let's go ahead and bring in our co-host to help us along on this podcasting adventure. Always a pleasure to be chatting with my buddy, Zach Sloan. Hey, Zach.
What is up, Ryan?
What is up, sir? He is a producer. He's a member of Dear Marcia, and he's just an all-around swell human being. Always great to have him on the show, if for no other reason that he actually does research on the guests before we interview them. So that's always that definitely gives you a special place in my heart. How are you, Zach?
I'm great, man. We're just, if you can't tell from the state of everything around me, I've got my guitar pedals down here. I'm in full show prep mode. My band Dear Marcia is celebrating our 30th anniversary. I've only been in the band for 4. But Dear Marcia's 30th anniversary is February 15th. We're playing a show in Parker, Colorado. And so, yeah, I've just been prepping for that, which has been a blast.
That's absolutely marvelous. I'm over the moon for you. Congratulations on that. That's a really big deal for your band. And, you all deserve every bit of it. And speaking of bands, in addition to having you on the show, which makes me happy, I am also excited for our guest this week. And I think you are as well. There are many metrics, Zach Sloan, that we can use to measure how great a guest is for Break the Business. We can, we can opine as to like their years of experience in the industry or how many awards they've won or how much great information they have. But my favorite metric to measure the quality of a guest is how much Zach Sloan is going to want to suck up to that guest for gig opportunities. And on that scale, I think our guest this week is an 11 out of 10. We're going to be joined in the second segment by Daniel Brindley, the co-founder of Union Stage Presents, the venue operator that operates some of the most prominent venues in DC. We're talking about Jam and Java. We're talking about Union Stage, the Howard Theater. These guys run it. And so, yeah, I imagine you're going to be putting on the charm offensive because I imagine for year 31, Dear Marsha is going to want to play some DC venues.
There's nothing more I'd love to play than in DC. I actually was listening to an interview with him that I want to talk about what it's like to have to deal with Secret Service when the president comes to one of your venues. So I can't wait to talk about that.
I did see that in one of his interviews, which has got to come up a lot when you operate venues in DC. His story is an interesting one because obviously now most people in the industry, when you say the name Daniel Brindley, they're like, oh yeah, that guy's the tops. He's one of the best venue operators out there. He's been doing this forever. But hearing about how he started is kind of amazing because it was just him and his brothers, and they just decided to take over a venue in DC, Jam and Java, and they had no experience. They had no background in venues. They were just musicians, and they had to learn it all as they went, and they made a bunch of mistakes along the way, but also turned Jam and Java into this really great venue that is a staple in DC. And now they got Union Stage Presents and all these venues in their portfolio. And it's just such an amazing story of perseverance that I'm really excited to share with the viewers and listeners.
The idea of anybody operating successfully one music venue in this day and age is amazing, but to have multiple is wild. So I'm very excited to talk to this cat.
I don't know how anybody gets into this business, Zach. I remember, I think it was last week, Gideon King and I were talking with the guest who operates the All Good Music Festival. And that was what we were talking about. Like, Gideon King, who we know is like the big business guy. Like nobody knows business like our co-host Gideon King. Even he's like, I've been trying to do live music for years, and I still don't know how to make the numbers work.
Yeah.
Like, it's just way too many moving parts, dealing with musicians, dealing with food and beverage, dealing with just everything that comes with having people come to music shows and them being drunk. Making the numbers work seems impossible. Making the numbers work at a vast portfolio of venues like Daniel Brindley does seems incomprehensible, and I'd love to hear more about how he does it. It must be all that yoga he does. It keeps him at peace.
Oh, I got yoga questions too, yo.
Well, good. You can ask the yoga questions. I don't know anything about yoga. I tried to, if I try to like put my leg that far behind my head, it's not coming back from behind my head. So before we get to the topics, my friend, I saw something that I just thought was kind of funny. I think producer Lauren might have a picture of this. I was playing Xbox the other day, and just kind of scrolling through looking for games to play. Now my son is at the age where, he actually, sleeps well through the night. So actually, maybe get like an hour every few days to play some video games. And I saw that on Xbox, they were offering Super Mario Strikers, which blew me away for a couple reasons. One, I love Super Mario Strikers. It is one of my favorite video games. Like, Elisa Rockdock and I, we can tell you stories about how like we would have marathon sessions of this game with all of our friends. It is so much fun. I mean, I think we were actually playing it, 2 hours before Evan and Elisa's wedding. Like all of us in the wedding party were just sitting around playing this game in our tuxedos and dresses, and it was the best. And so that's one thing to know about this game. The other thing to know about this game is that, like all the Super Mario games, it was always exclusively a Nintendo property.
Yeah, that's what jumped out at me when you said Xbox, man.
So I was like Super Mario Xbox. Like I was really happy because I was like, oh, I have an Xbox. I'm so glad that Xbox somehow got the IP for this. And so I opened up the game and I was ready to download it and absolutely get back into like my nostalgia of Super Mario Strikers. And then I looked at the logo more closely, which I would invite you to do here, Zach.
Wait,
look at the logo there and look at the name of the game and see if there's anything that seems weird about this being a Super Mario game.
well, it's Mario Striker Soccer League.
So, yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. Like, it's not Mario Strikers, it's Mario Strikers. And if you look, I mean, it's not quite Mario, right? Like, he's got like a mustache, and he's doing like the Let's Go fist, where like the fist is up in the air. But like the shirt's not the right color, his legs are a little too long, he's not quite stocky. And he's like kind of like a little bit more of like a lean, kind of like almost lean jacked sort of Super Mario.
Yeah, less mushrooms, more running. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, if you look even closer at it, you can tell that like the image was this is the cover of the game, was generated with AI. Like, look at the guy all the way in the left and like look what his ear's doing. There's like a fist growing out of his ear.
Or I guess maybe that's movement. Yeah, there's some weird stuff when you start looking at hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the hands aren't quite. So anyway, this absolutely crushed my spirit. I think it is only a matter of time before the folks over at Nintendo send all of the lawyers after whatever this is.
This is
like
Nintendo. They're like the most litigious video game.
Yes, like I mean, of all the games, all the IP to try to rip off, like Super Mario, like Nintendo will be bloodthirsty. Like these people are in so much trouble.
I mean, I guess I also don't fundamentally understand then how the marketplace works, where this just got up there for you to download. Like, is it just the Wild West there?
I do have a great many questions for how this seemed to have slipped past whatever vetting process Xbox uses to like put stuff in its store. Like, I mean, I would say even like the most cursory of legal reviews would have probably flagged this. But as I checked it, and I checked it right before the show as we broadcasted this, it's still in the store. Even though like there's already articles online that are making fun of this existing Mario Strikers Soccer League. And frankly, I kind of want to sue whatever the maker of this game is for emotional distress, because like I got so crushed when I realized that like my treasured favorite video game was in fact not available on Xbox. And yeah, get that out of here. Get that image out of here, Producer Lord. I'm tired of looking at it. It's making me so sad.
I can't wait to read this article from Kotaku about this, because they have an article about it that came out 8 hours ago.
Okay, so Kotaku is covering this now. Awesome.
Oh my goodness. The title is, just so everybody wants to read this after the show, like I'm going to, New Mario Strikers is out now on Xbox. Wait a minute.
Yes, that was exactly what that was to the word. That was what I said to myself on my couch as I was looking to play this game. Oh, New Mario Strikers. Oh, wait a minute.
This does not look good.
Well,
yeah. If you look at video game, like cell phone games, like I see this all the time. I was looking through cell phone. I want to say it was like there was a Baldur Gate 3 that you could download, and I was like, "There's no way Baldur's Gate 3 runs on a cell phone." I started looking at it. I was like, "Yeah, this is just some." Yeah, I was like, somebody just trying to rip it off and make some money.
I mean, there is a whole industry. And you know this, like if you've ever like driven on like one of those turnpike rest stops going from like one place to another, like, on like a road trip, you always see these like cabinets full of DVDs, that I categorize as a special genre of, movies for grandparents with bad eyesight to give to their grandchildren, yes, thinking it is like their favorite Disney movie. And it's a whole special thing. Producer Lord, if you want to find some examples of this, like the one that comes to my mind that like I always think of was like, there was a movie called Kiana the Brave, and it has Kiana the in like really small letters and the word brave in giant letters. And it's a CGI animated film featuring a red-haired female protagonist wearing like a green dress. And they're obviously trying to make you think it's the Disney movie Brave. And if you're an old person with bad eyesight, you will absolutely buy that thing off the turnpike rest stop shelf and give it to your soon-to-be disappointed grandchild for their birthday.
So, Ryan, we're going to go back to 2006 2007, in the life of Zach Sloan. And I used to work with this cat who would come in and he'd be like, "Hey man, there, you know that new movie? I remember specifically like 310 to Yuma. He's like, 310 to Yuma's out. He's like, you want to watch it?" And I was like, I mean, not particularly. And he slides me this DVD, and it's just like it's one of those, except because I had to put it in. It was very much somebody who had snuck like a camcorder into the movie theater, like under their jacket, and just filmed the movie. It was so awesome. I never finished it, but I'll tell you what, dude, it sticks. It lives in my head.
Well, I mean, look, those are two equally celebrated genres of cinema. Okay, the bootlegged guy, the bootlegged Sony Handycam version of an actual Hollywood film that somebody like sells you on the street and they have it like in their jacket. That's pretty spectacular too. But what I'm talking about specifically are movies that are intentionally made to be knockoffs of the movie, like not a stolen version of the movie, but like it's an actual movie, but it's solely designed to make people think it's a different movie when you buy it.
And I remember the last time, it's been a while ago, but my mother-in-law, who is from Taiwan, came back with a CD from me. There it is.
There it is. Got producer Lauren on top of it this evening. There it is. Oh, sorry, I said it was Kiana the Brave. Kiara the Brave.
That's why it took me that long.
Oh, okay. It's my fault. Okay.
But like I remember Kwang Chi comes back with a CD and she's like, "Zach, I think you'll love this. This is that band that got in trouble with the president." And it was the Dixie Chicks, but it was they spelled it incorrectly.
Oh my. Oh my.
When you put it in the CD player, it's just a bunch of bootlegs of the Spice Girls.
Oh my God. So like, yeah, we can put all of those in the same Hall of Fame now with Super Mariostro Strikers or whatever it was called. Well, speaking of authentically good pieces of art, Zach, I do want to, before we proceed too far to the show, do a little celebration for a member of our Break the Business family. And I know that producer Lauren's going to like to hear this because she was a big fan of this guest and of this movie. But, you know, this show, Zach, has had a pretty nice history of folks who've done well with the Grammys. We've had a few Grammy winners on the show before. And now I'm happy to announce that on a Sunday, Break the Business guest Bill Tech, who was on the show back in June, will be seeing if he wins a Grammy Award for his documentary, Stevie Van Zandt, Disciple. We had him on the show back in June. He's a great friend of mine, known him for years. He was awesome. The documentary is awesome. And he has a Grammy nomination for Best Music Film. It's his first Grammy nomination, and we're going to find out on Sunday if he wins the thing. It's possible by the time you listen to this show, viewers and listeners, we'll already know if he won or not. So fingers crossed. Let's all collectively cross our fingers for our friend Bill Tech. I would love nothing more than to see this guy win some hardware. He's been in the documentary business for so long. He's been making movies forever. I've had the pleasure of working with him on a ton of projects. He deserves this, and it would be so cool to see him win this thing.
Oh, heck yeah. And anytime, like, I'm a Springsteen fan, so, like, a Stevie Van Zandt, like, sign me up to listen to or watch this. But, like, anytime somebody can make it on the stage like that and is not a Beyonce, even though Beyonce hasn't had much luck, but you get my reference. Yeah, it's impressive, right? Like that speaks to the quality and the work ethic of Bill. So that's pretty dope, man. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, he's been plugging away at a long time for something like this, and I would just love what it would mean for him. Like, I think he's already going to get a lot of cool opportunities that come his way just for getting the nomination. I think if he wins the Grammy, like, I think there could be some really cool opportunities that result from that. And I can't think of anybody more deserving. I do have a story to talk to you about, Bill, but you came to me with two pretty crazy stories. And I just kind of want to run through both of them quickly before we get to our main news story this week, because like you just kind of threw these right before we started the show. You just kind of dropped these two things in my lap, and they're both incredible, and I don't know what to do with them. So I'm just going to throw them out to you at the same time, and you can elaborate on both. One, you have told me that apparently Ringo Starr has never had pizza
or curry,
and also Your band, Dear Marcia, is going to be hiring the Denver Broncos drumline.
Okay, first, let's start with Ringo Starr. He confirmed in an interview that he has never had pizza or a curry, to which the report says the audience fell silent, and then he explained that he has a lot of allergies, so he's got to play it careful. Second, Ryan, as a lawyer, I feel like I should be, and we can talk lawyer to lawyer. I can't say that we're playing with the Denver Broncos drumline. I can't. What I can say is that we are playing with members, all of the members who happen to also be in the Denver Bronco drumline. And we're not playing with the Denver Bronco drumline. We are playing with members from it, all of the members, but not the Bronco drumline because of licensing issues. But yes, at our 30th anniversary show, we have hired all of the members who happen to also play at Mile High or whatever the heck it's called now, to do a number or two with us, which is going to be ridiculously fun. So it's going to be a good time, man.
I mean, first of all, congratulations. That sounds awesome. And I love to see the end product. And second of all, like, hasn't the previous segment not taught you anything, Zach? Like, all we have to do is just change a few words and phrases around, and we can get around any trademark issues. Like, what if, if Kiana the Brave can exist and Super Mario Strikers can exist, then, like, we can't call these people, like, the Colorado Horses drumline?
So I already got this shot down because here was my idea. We were supposed to advertise, and Wendy and Raina, who've been on the show, were like, Zach, you're an idiot. And I was like, no, I'm a lawyer. I wanted to advertise that we were playing with the Denver Mile High Stompy Stomp Horsey Horse drumline and see if anybody could connect the dots and do it like all in like light blue, not quite Bronco blue, and like darker orange, like a burnt orange and like a powder blue kind of thing. And they were just like, you're a moron. I was like, no, I'm a genius.
Dear Marcia and the Clip Clop drumline.
That's even better. Why didn't I call you? I knew I should have called you.
I know. That either like so like what will be the end product of this? Like, is this going to be recorded? Is the end result of your band and a football drumline going to be something we can enjoy soon?
So, funny story. Yes, we're actually going to be trying to release a live recording of the show. It remains to be seen exactly how we'll do that, but we've got some things in the works. And we also have some videographers and things who are coming out to document it. I mean, this is 30 years of Dear Marcia. They got together in 1995. I joined about 4 years ago. It's a big deal. We're sort of pulling out all the stops. So the show actually opens with me doing a guitar solo because I don't know why, but that's what they decided to do. And they're my bosses, and I do what they say. So
a couple things. One, when you said that 1995 was 30 years ago, that was violence just there.
You died a little, didn't you?
That effing hurt, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I was about to correct you. I was like, oh no, he's right. That sucks. I don't even want to do the rest of the show anymore. Secondly, the fact that like you get to celebrate the 30th anniversary doesn't really seem fair.
I know,
like,
it's stupid.
You're the baseball player that got traded to the championship team right at the end of the season.
What's awesome?
and are like there celebrating and like, doing the champagne shower with everybody else. Like, you didn't go through everything. You didn't suffer the slings and arrows.
What's funny is like, so Wendy and Raina are from West Texas and I'm from Eastern New Mexico. Like, I literally grew up an hour and a half away from them. We never crossed paths because they were in the Amarillo music scene. I was in the Lubbock music scene. And we just sort of missed each other. Like, a lot of their horror stories I also have, just not with them. Now, they also have way more horror stories, like, being being two lesbians running a band in West Texas is a whole other horror show. But like, it's just funny because they'll be like, oh, you ever play that club? I was like, yeah, I do remember that club. They're like, oh, that place sucked. I was like, it did suck. I remember that. And we should talk to our guest about how not to have clubs that get those kind of reputations.
Well, there you go. Well, so let's add that to the list. But before we bring in Daniel Brindley, I do want to get this article squeezed in here before we go because I think it's a pretty interesting one. Earlier this week, an article in Fast Company talked about how influencers can be well advised to supplement their income rather than putting all of their eggs in the creator basket. The article by Brian Honigman titled, "Want to be a full-time influencer? Consider freelancing," highlights the challenges of making a living as a full-time content creator and why freelancing on the side might be a smarter bet. According to a 2023 survey, 57% of Gen Z aspires to be influencers, drawn to the promise of big paydays and flexible work. But the reality? Only 4% of creators earn over $100,000 a year, while nearly half make less than $15,000. Lindsay Gamble, an expert in the creator economy, warns, quote, "Going full-time as a creator can be challenging, especially when relying on brand deals, which can be inconsistent and volatile. With social media platforms constantly changing algorithms or getting shut down or reducing their payouts, putting all your eggs in the influencer basket can be risky. Instead, the article suggests something of a hybrid approach, freelancing while also creating content. Freelancing, by which we mean offering services like consulting, design, marketing, alongside your influencing work, can give you stability financially. As creator Jade Powell puts it, quote, "Alternating between freelance and creator work allowed me to be creatively free and work with a variety of brands." What's our final takeaway here? If you want to be a content creator, don't rely on it as your sole income system. Diversify, build skills, give yourself options. It's not about choosing between freelancing or influencing. It's about saying yes to both. I mean, this is a piece of advice, Zach, that I'm frequently trying to impart to influencers, mainly because by virtue of being an influencer, you either have naturally or have built a wide range of transferable skills, whether it's social media marketing, copywriting, hosting, web design, all of which can be desirable to folks who need those kind of freelancers to do work for them. And so, you don't want to let those transferable skills go to waste by saying, oh, I'm only going to do stuff if it's creative content for me and that's it.
I mean, that, I think if you asked musicians that, they'd be like, yeah, of course. Like, very few musicians that I know don't run a few side hustles here and there. I think content creators and, TikTokers and all those things and indie musicians have a whole heck of a lot in common. So that all sounds about right to me, man.
That's interesting perspective, right? So really what you're saying there is that influencers generally need to learn what musicians have learned for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm a huge D&D nerd, and I was just watching some of my favorite D&D channels on YouTube have just closed up shop because the algorithm has shifted in such a way that they can't maintain. They're not being pushed to new viewers, and so they can't maintain, and they're just closing up shop. Or one of my favorite ones was like, well, I guess I'm not doing D&D anymore, or I'm going to do a Star Trek channel, and they had to make that kind of switch because they could actually make money. So when you're a content creator, you're at the whims of a lot of things that are out of your control. So you got to diversify a lot, and like you said, spread your eggs amongst all the baskets.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's something to be said for diversification. I think that freelancing can also be sort of beneficial to the creative pursuits that you do. I think a lot of influencers might think, well, if I do freelancing, it's going to diminish from my creative product. I'm going to, take energy that I could be used to make creative stuff, and I'm going to be putting it towards this freelancing thing, which is going to hurt my art. And I've often come to find that for a lot of my clients, the opposite is true. That, in fact, by creating all of the time, doing artistic stuff all of the time, you wind up burning out that artistic side. It's good to do a little bit of, what the farmers would call crop rotation, right? You do a bunch of different tasks, you do the freelancing on the side so that you can kind of keep the seeds of your creative pursuits fresh, and you're not just like burning out those circuits, like overworking those muscles. It's, diversifying not just for financial reasons, but diversifying for just your own creative energy reasons is pretty important.
Oh, without a doubt. And also, don't discount when you're doing freelance work. This has worked for me several times. You meet some pretty cool people, and when those people find out you do this other thing too, or maybe that's why they found you, that can open up other doors. So I wouldn't consider it at the expense of your art. I would consider it a necessary supplement to your art, or even an extension of the art itself.
And I think that mindset is important, right? The more that you can tell yourself as an influencer that this other stuff that you are doing is not detracting from your career. It's not forcing you to take steps back from your influencing. It's actually an important component of your influencing. It's actually helping you take steps forward as an influencer that you wouldn't be able to take otherwise without doing that stuff, right? It's giving you networking opportunities. It's giving you financial fuel to fuel your creative pursuits. It is giving you relationships you wouldn't otherwise have. It is keeping you from burning out by just creating, in lieu of just creating all the time. You put all those things together, it is a great addition to any influencer's arsenal. And, it's cool to see. I mean, frankly, I thought it was cool to see Fast Company, of all publications, kind of talking about that and speaking to that population, because I really think they nailed it there.
Absolutely.
All right, let us take a quick break, and we are going to be joined by Daniel Brindley of Union Stage Presents. I'm really excited for this interview. Don't go anywhere. Keep checking out Break the Business. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan A. Kairalla, PA. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with Zach Sloan. Man, I hope so much that Bill Tech wins this Grammy, Zach. It is occupying my very thoughts. And I know that, because of the way, the time lag of this podcast release works, that people are going to know whether I'm right or wrong by the time many of them are listening to this show. And I want so badly to be right. But I can tell you, I'm actually a big nerd when it comes to the pre-telecast Grammy Awards. Most of the Grammy Awards, as many people might not know, aren't actually announced during the Grammy broadcast. Only about maybe 10-20% of the Grammy Awards are actually on CBS. The rest of them are broadcast on YouTube during the day. And those are my favorite. I love the pre-telecast awards because, look, it's cool to see Beyonce win something. But you know what's really cool? To see some 53-year-old tire salesman win Best Zydeco Fusion Album and just change his life, and it makes him so happy. That's the good stuff. And so that's and hopefully our friend Bill Tech will be right next to that tire salesman.
I'm so rooting for him. I will actually tune into the pre-show Grammys now because of this.
Heck yeah. Just you and me watching it on YouTube. Thank you all for checking out Break the Business. We're always so grateful to have you supporting this show. If you're looking for other ways to just show your love, throwing us a nice rate or review, a nice comment on whatever platform you're checking out the show. Tell a friend about the show. We're growing this thing organically, man, and we really appreciate you just spreading the word about what we're trying to do around here. Thank you for checking us out on SiriusXM 145 and Volume.com and Twitch and all the major podcast platforms. Wherever you're checking us out, we're so glad that you are. Hey, Zach, let's go ahead and bring out our guest this week.
He runs the show at Union Stage, yeah. Bright lights, crowds, all the rage. From the heart, he builds the sound, making waves that touch the ground. Daniel Brindley, take a bow. Break the Business starts right now. Music flows where dreams align. Union Stage, your stage divine.
All Our guest this week is an acclaimed venue operator and promoter, as well as the co-founder at the newly launched Union Stage Presents, a DC-based venue company whose portfolio includes Union Stage, Jam and Java, Pearl Street Warehouse, and the Howard Theater. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting unionstagepresents.com. We are happy to welcome Daniel Brindley on to Break the Business. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for that amazing welcome. That was awesome.
That should win a Grammy, right?
Yes. It was pretty sweet. I was bopping.
Oh, happy to hear it, man. Daniel, you and your brothers have been operating venues for over 20 years. And
Yes.
you know, when people say the name Brindley Brothers like that means something in this industry. But I want to go back to where it all started, which from what I read was you three taking over Jam and Java as basically just three musicians with no venue management experience. And knowing what I know about operating venues, I assume that everything just went smoothly and nothing at all went wrong, right?
Oh my God. I have nieces and nephews that are 21 now. I was 21 years old. I look at them and I'm 46 now. Two kids, the whole deal. I was a child. I was a literal child. But we jumped right in. My brother Luke and I were first on the scene. Our brother Jonathan came later. Luke and I are musicians. We had a band. We really thought I was 21, he was 26. We really genuinely thought we could take over this venue, which by the way had a really sweet recording studio in it, and further our touring career and have the club on the side. Like just keep the club on the side and like it'll kind of support the tour. Within like a matter of months, let's just say, smack in the face, knocked us off our feet, and it just took over our lives. Just running a small business, employees, late nights, rent due, all kinds of craziness.
Daniel, here's the thing, man, okay? Every person who's ever worked in the entertainment business or has even been adjacent to the entertainment business has sat in a bar drunk and like said to their buddy next to them,
Yes.
you know, we could run this venue.
It's
You and
so
me,
true.
let's get a club and we'll bring in only our favorite bands. Okay.
Wow.
Everybody has said that, Daniel, but for everybody else, that's where the conversation ended. What
Yes.
the hell were you thinking actually
not-
going through with it?
That resonates with me so much because I've seen that stuff happen in the past 23 years in our city, and the stuff comes and goes. And it's people with means who start venues, have great intentions. And you're right, they really think you can just start something, get the money together, build something really great, actually, and then just kind of book the bands you love. Or, you know, wow, we're going to get this really famous band to come play this little space or whatever. And you're like, that is not the reality, man. You are forgetting that there are cold Monday nights in January. You are forgetting that there's Super Bowl Sunday. You're forgetting that like it's not like that. And that usually happens as well when they go to a big Friday night experience. And you know, it's like, wow, like this place is hopping. They must be raking in the money. You know what I mean? And again, they're not understanding the details of these money deals with the bands and all the ins and outs of all that. And they're certainly not understanding what I had to understand quickly was dealing with employees and late nights and alcohol and security and insurance and yuck, HVAC systems break down, all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, how were you guys able to get past those, to bend that learning curve and get through those growing pains? Cause like I was talking with, my co-host last week, Gideon King, about, working in live music. And he was like, I've invested in festivals. Me personally, I've done some stuff in the live music business. And for the most part, I don't know how anybody in your line of work makes the numbers work. So what have we all not figured out that you guys have figured out?
We're still figuring it out. I'm not going to stand here and say everything's grand all the time. Everything's perfect all the time. We're still, not as small as we used to be. And I'm not in like the trenches or late night anymore. And so we've made great progress. We have an amazing team. We have a ton of employees now, all good signs of life. But, it's still business ownership, right? So there's still all that happening and unexpected things. I mean, let's not forget 4 years ago, we were shut down. I mean, like you can't plan for certain things. I just continue to ride the wave. But early on, to go back to that kind of origin story, it was grit, it was passion, it was fear. I mean, I'm being honest with you. It was like, when you have rent due, and when people talk about this when as artists, right? When they take out that safety net, when they quit that part-time job at the coffee shop, and they just go all in, and that fear of that rent payment or that fear of that next bill or not having health insurance, at young age. Now, I don't want to operate like that anymore, by the way, and I don't feel like I do. But at the young age of 21, 22, 25, up to 30 something, it drove a lot of the activity. Necessity breeds invention. And thankfully, I'm a resourceful dude. Thankfully, I know how to book shows, and I picked it up really quickly, and I actually enjoyed it. Like I found like a real knack for booking concerts. And I do think, among other factors, that really helped a ton as well. Because always say, if you book it, they will come. And you got to book it. And I don't care if Mick Jagger's playing somebody's living room down the street, they'll find it. Like, they'll get there. Don't worry about it. Like, they'll get there because you booked the right act. And I do think that was another huge piece to the puzzle for us, was just having someone like myself there to just crank shows through this place, man. Just really obsess over this calendar and make it special.
One more question before I pass things along to my co-host, Zach Sloan, who has a great deal of sucking up to you to do because he's got a great band, and I'm sure they're going to be touring through your neck of the woods pretty soon. But working with your brothers, how have you not killed each other?
Yeah. Dude, you're asking great questions. I love this. And not typical questions, not the typical ones that I get.
My sister did not like that question.
Yeah, there you go. Again,
she took some exception to that question.
We're in an incredible place right now, but it's definitely not always been like that. And I think the thing with the early days, especially when you're small, and maybe people can relate to this who are listening, if you have a small business, you're kind of all doing all the things. You're not kind of big enough to have like, you do this and I'll do this. It's like everybody is kind of like this Swiss Army knife and just moving around. Well, what created in the early days was people just getting in each other's lanes a lot, you know what I mean? And a lot of butting heads. And it was real. I mean, we've definitely had major run-ins, major issues, times where some of us were a little more involved or less involved at times. Everything shifted when we finally really identified and respected each other's place in the business. And thankfully, each of the three brothers are very different. I'm the booking CEO, kind of like deal maker guy. Luke, the oldest, is marketing, and he's a really smart dude. He's been doing a lot of finance stuff for us recently. And our brother Jonathan, he essentially lived at Jam and Java for the first 10 years of its existence. He's a hands-on guy. He's a project guy, and he's way tougher than I am. I mean, he was there for the late nights. He was there to greet the bands, pay the bands, and do all that stuff in the early days. So I am grateful that somehow cosmically that worked out, that we kind of fit together like puzzle pieces.
Okay, I have to, before I talk music,
Yeah.
you said something earlier. So I actually used to practice employment law.
Okay.
Because I don't think people talk about this enough when they're starting venues. What are the challenges of dealing with employees like, and how do you navigate that as a new business owner?
The employee stuff has been probably the biggest challenge over the years. Just hiring the wrong people, and especially in our environment, lots of turnover, right? Like, you're dealing with especially when we only had Jam and Java, let's say. It was a lot of sort of summertime, or people, they kind of tell you that, yeah, well, I'm good, and then all of a sudden they quit 2 weeks later. Like, this kind of like inconsistency and kind of low level, kind of minimum wage worker. I am grateful, though, that said, that our way of doing business has always been very upright, truthful, family oriented, and respectful of people. And for that reason, we have people that have been with us the entire time, over 20
Word.
years. Yeah.
Wow.
And some are, yeah, and which I'm very proud of it, which is why I'm kind of pointing that out, because these are people who started at a very young age and were able to like build actual lives and careers and kind of either work their way up or be satisfied with where they are and maintain. Our COO right now started at 19. She was an intern hanging posters.
Wow.
She's now 29. I've got a lot of stories like that. I'm not totally answering your question, but the people piece is, I would say, the most important piece. And like, to get kind of serious for a minute, like, I think that is in the early days also what like helped us get our groove on, get our traction that we needed. We were musicians, and musicians were showing up. Our sound guy and guys were musicians, and they talked the talk, and we had a way of welcoming people because we knew what it felt like to be on the road for 6 hours and hit traffic and then roll into a venue. And we knew what it felt like to be treated well. And we knew what it on the other side. And so we were able to get our people fired up about all that. Besides the fact that we actually like music, we actually like live music. And as a leader, when you're hiring people and you're dealing with that employee like kind of quotient or whatever, I always, it's been a hard lesson to learn over the years. It always flows from the top. And I always have to take responsibility for things that are happening. Then sometimes I'm pointing fingers, well, they should do this. And I'm like, it always flows from the top, from the leaders. And over the years, we've been able to refine and sharpen our tools as leaders. And it's helped us a ton with some of the problems you mentioned.
Well, and another thing, and I don't feel like you'll correct me, but correct me if I'm wrong. Based on my research of you and your venues, it seems like you have a very community-based approach, that you are trying to make yourselves, not to overstate it, but pillars of the community. How have you been able to do that? And has that translated to, say, booking national acts when you are also trying to build this local sort of foundation?
Yeah, it's another amazing question. I mean, because we were able to start a small club first, we didn't go start super big. When you have a small club, and then don't forget, our small club, Jam and Java, is in the suburbs. And it's actually in a strip mall, and I joke about it all the time, but it's a silly strip mall, silly name. We didn't name the place. Silly strip mall, silly name outside of the city. And there's these sort of like weird black sheepy kind of like quirks about it. If you assessed, oh, am I going to purchase this venue and take it over? Now, anybody would have been like, stay away. This won't work as a touring spot. But those quirks contributed on the early days, especially, but over the history of 23 years of Jam and Java, to an ability to actually create real community, because it had like a coffee shopy kind of element to it when it started. It has a music school for kids. Like I say kids, it's not all kids, but mostly kids upstairs. So kids are taking their guitar lessons upstairs. We're all ages all the time. You just park in the freaking big strip mall parking lot. You walk in the door, you feel safe as hell. And just over the many years, you got people just dropping their teenagers off or whatever the hell they're doing, feel completely fine with it. Things that don't happen typically, not when I grew up at least. If you're going to a club to see a show, like, it's a very different thing. First of all, you can't get in when you're younger. Plus, it's been run by a family, and it's not made up. You know what I mean? People talk about like that family culture, and we want to create community and stuff, but like, you can't force that. You can't make it like. My brother had his 2 kids there, like his little toddlers running around when we took it over. And then before you know it, they're all behind the counter, like taking the garbage out. You know what I mean? It's just real life. And I feel like that authenticity thing has helped us. And we've been able to maintain it because it's our roots. Like it's just, I just feel like we created this identity. It's all we've known. It's how we've operated. And so when we added 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 venues now, it just continues to pervade everything. And that's just how we've been able to do it.
It's just so interesting to me to see when venues make good on things like that, because we have all seen, as musicians, you and me both, right? You've been to the places that say they are that, and you've been to the places that are that. What's in the future? Do you have future aspirations? You have 6 venues, I believe I heard you correctly. One of which is the Howard Theater, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
What are the future plans for you all? It seems like you've got a lot going on. Are you looking at expanding? What's going on?
This year, get better, not bigger. That's the plan. We came out of COVID, shrunk down to 10 employees. We have 250 right now. We came out of COVID, shrunk down to like no shows. We're going to do over 1,000 shows this year. It's been insane. Like I'm telling you. And then again, I feel like I want to like talk to all the small business owners out there, because I know you know what it feels like to be in survival mode. And I know you know what it feels like to sort of be on that roller coaster ride. And I feel like through last year, I'm 46 years old right now, I've never gotten off the train of survival mode. This year, we'll do that. This year, we've added so much stuff in the past. We've got this just great things going on. The team's in place. It's time to really prove out like robust profitability from what we already have. And I keep telling all my staff and stuff, it's like all these 6 venues are like our kids, like there's 6 different kids. And it's like, this one's a little this way, this one's a little this way. And I just want each one to be like shining and healthy as possible as they can be. as they can be. Jam and Java is always going to be kind of like out there. It's never going to be the biggest one. Oh, but how can Jam and Java just be like the best Jam and Java it can be? And then Howard Theater. Howard Theater has 119 years of history. I mean, it's insane, the history of this place. And like, there's a lot of more people involved. And we just have this new nonprofit. And we've got all these wonderful people on the board for the nonprofit associated with supporting it. So it's a whole different conversation, a whole entire different thing. But I want Howard Theater just to be like shining for what Howard Theater can be this year, without adding more clubs, without adding all kinds of shiny new things on.
I'd love to see if some of the lessons that you've learned in operating venues for so many years and some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome might provide some lessons that are transferable to indie creators. Is there any lessons from your experience that you think that group of small businesses might benefit from hearing?
I would say absolutely. And I feel like I've got a book somewhere because I really feel like I could go on. This is an amazing topic. My first thing that I wish someone told me in my 20s, whereas I was in the hustle thing, like very hustle, very workaholic. I became a workaholic, like very hustle, money, bigger is better. I wish someone just like grabbed me, stopped me, and said, turn the other direction, start working on yourself as a human being. Like, get to know yourself, get to know yourself, know who you are, understand your best skills and how you might, use them in this situation, and then come back to this business with like a real healthy true north, like a real sense of purpose, and now get your butt in gear. There's a clarity that can develop, and I think I want people to have as indie creators and business owners for like a whole life kind of wealth that's happening. And I've been able to develop it for myself. Just acknowledging that there's a level of balance, that it's you're trying to make it, you're trying to get noticed, you're trying to, cut through the noise. So much of the experience for me, and by the way, I managed bands for a very long time, and I've booked talent and been a tastemaker for 23 years. So much of what happens becomes derivative. You're creating something that is not actually you. It is not, and how could it be if you don't even know who you is? And so I feel so strongly that everything that we do is going to be like this outgrowth of who we are, like it or not, whatever is happening. And so that work on yourself is fundamental and critical. It took me till a few years ago, pretty much, to get that worked out.
Has yoga been helpful in helping you find that clarity? I mean, a lot of what you're talking about sounds like stuff that yoga helps with.
It is. Yeah, I'm a yoga teacher. I joke about a few years ago. I did discover yoga like 13 years ago, and then I became a teacher. I'm a hot yoga teacher. Specifically, in case people know, a guy, his name is Baron Baptiste, and the type of yoga is Baptiste yoga, or Journey into Power. It is an extremely hot yoga class. It is a very intensive power yoga, and you get your butt kicked, but not totally. You certainly have your senses completely kind of assaulted, or whatever the right word is, because it's just so damn hot when you walk into place and you're like, how am I going to get through this thing? And through that process, absolutely, it taught me how to breathe. It taught me how to stay with the experience. It taught me how to live with things that are uncomfortable and not shy away from things that are uncomfortable. It taught me how to just like shut down and also just get still towards the end of the class, despite all the activity that happens at the top, and you are sweating. I'm not talking like go running on the treadmill. It is you're completely sopping wet with sweat. Teacher's barking at you, but the class ends. It's like this arc. It goes boom, and then you come right down, and you have all these slow kind of restorative yoga poses towards the end. And I vividly remember at my early stages of experiencing this yoga, not even teaching it, being in a half pigeon pose, if anyone's familiar. And just a random teacher was like, take a big breath in, take a big breath out. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it, of having that ability to truly pause and experience that single moment that was happening, that present moment experience of that breath in and out of my physical body in the midst of a lot of life changes and all that kind of stuff. So it's absolutely been transformative for me.
That's wild. Hot yoga. That was something actually that helped me get through law school back in the day.
Great.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said for what you're talking about. How has that? Do you find yourself taking in and like confronting things directly in front of you and experiencing moment by moment? Is that helping you through the business side of it as well, or is
Oh
that
yeah.
helping you mental clarity wise?
Business, it's everything. Especially this type of yoga. I've just so many lessons learned of how to be a great leader. Well, I discovered my identity as a human being through the process. This is why I said this is the first thing I tell indie creators. It's like get to know yourself, do the work, read the books, take the classes, spend the money on the retreat, do what you got to do to get to know yourself. Whatever it is, by the way. Yoga was my main thing. I did other things, by the way. It could be anything. You know what I mean? It could be martial arts. It could be freaking knitting. Like, it doesn't matter. But for me, through this process, I immediately was like, I love this yoga. It makes me feel good. I'm losing weight. I started to, physical changes. I was like awareness. And then all of a sudden I'm like, should I teach? Could I teach? And I'm like, okay, bing, bang, bam. I start doing little retreats and stuff. And just before you know it, just sort of fast forward, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a leader. I'm a teacher. I am that guy. I am this guy. And I just ate it up. I just ate it up and went through all these trainings. And it helped me like amplify who I already was. That's back to what I literally just said about the clubs. I literally just said I want them to be the best, most pure, most authentic versions of who they are, not somebody else. And the same thing I learned for myself. I was like, wow, I like claimed my identity as a leader, as someone who sees potential in people and things and has the heart and the skills to achieve that potential for them, for myself, for them, and just being that catalyst. And so to answer your question about running a business, yeah, everything. People's everything. And I think there's a cool through line with all your guys' questions. It's perfect. It's like, yeah, the people thing is everything. It was bubbling up with family and community and coffee shop stuff early. Now I feel like I'm like on fire and I can sit down with my leaders or whoever and grab a one-on-one and I'm talking like I'm talking now, and I have an ability to help them navigate life. I have an ability to help them navigate issues, and issues are always going to be there because I have the ability to have really present conversations with people and help them just sort of get through the weeds or whatever they need to do. And by the way, it might mean leaving or something crazy. I want what's best for people. And I think that resonates with our staff.
I dig this. This makes me want to do yoga, even though I'd be atrocious at it. Our guest has been Daniel Brindley, the acclaimed venue operator and co-founder of Union Stage Presents. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting unionstagepresents.com. Daniel, this has been really cool. I loved hearing about your story, loved the advice you gave, love your perspective about just being a complete human as well as a business person. All very, very cool. We got one last question before we let you go. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Sure. Well, I definitely shared one, and I would add to that, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah, that's very, very important.
Just,
I mean, you've lived your life with that, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, just get in there, like sign that lease, like in my case, right? Like, just like go. By the way, I didn't even live in DC. I loaded up a U-Haul, drove down, took that chance, removed the safety net, go all in. Go all in. Don't be afraid. You're not going to get it right first. And you have to kind of accept those elements of sort of failure or whatever. If you can know that the milk is already spilled, they say don't cry over spilled milk. If you can know that it's already spilled and kind of proceed with like a focus and awareness of this higher vision for yourself, I just feel like you're going to be in an amazing place. And that level of grit, I just want to encourage people with that. Accepting that stuff is going to come will help you bust through, because I think that's a lot of where the good stuff comes too.
The milk is already spilled. I'm going to steal that. Our thanks to Daniel Brindley and Zach Sloan. Thanks to producer Lauren. And thanks, as always, to all of you viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. Mwah! We love you. We'll see you next week.